I just love when people get butthurt over a film and then it makes $1 billion anyways,
They get what? Butthurt?
Butthurt.
Is that a saying?
It is a saying.
It is,
Yeah.
yes.
I thought he just made that up.
Hello, and welcome to the Original Remake Podcast. My name is Pat, and I'm joined by Amy,
Hello.
Andrea,
Hello.
and Nick.
Oh, hi.
And today is the randomizer episode. We'll discuss the highlights and lowlights from films we watched during the round, talk about other films and TV shows we've been watching recently, and answer some questions. All right, so let's jump in and do our normal favorite, least favorite films of the round. This is where we look at the 4 films that we remade this round and pick our favorite and least favorite. We'll start with favorite movie of the round. Nick, why don't you lead us off?
Oh, I see how it is. No, I have to change it now because I jumped ahead in the notes.
Yeah, I saw it in the notes, and I thought, you know what? Let's just go start out on a strong suit.
And don't forget our rule: we can't pick our own.
Yeah,
That is
I
true.
know.
Otherwise,
I know.
I'd pick mine.
Right, same. Which is why there's the rule. This was a tough one, but I ended up going with Terminal.
Dun, 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 dun.
Da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah, it was a tough one, but I ended up going with Terminator.
What?
And should we recap real quick here so that folks know what the choices are?
So Pat picked Terminator Salvation. Nick, I picked Executive Decision. Nick picked Jumper, and Amy picked Cocoon.
Yes. Those are the choices, and
Okay.
I picked Terminator.
I'm going to pick Terminator Salvation as well.
Nobody asked you.
The round had a lot of really good films. They were,
Jumping ahead.
the one I hated the least, I guess, was Jumper. Wait, that's not.
Yep, nope, that's
Nope.
yep, you had
The
it.
one I hated the most was Jumper, but it still wasn't that bad. It was hard to pick one that was like the best out of them.
Wow.
I think all 4 of these films are not great and not awful.
There you go.
Yeah.
Does that sound reasonable? Yeah.
So it only took us 5 seasons to finally get our stuff together.
It's not really seasons, they're rounds.
5 rounds. Well,
We've watched a lot of movies, but nothing could ever be as bad as Moonfall.
20. Yeah, Moonfall, the worst. Not Ready Player One.
You know what? I'm proud of that movie. I've gotten people very upset who have watched that movie because of the podcast and had to sit through it.
So you've made other people suffer for your
Yes.
sins?
Yeah, that's
No.
correct.
God damn it.
Yeah.
No.
The legacy of Moonfall will continue.
You're a terrible person.
Oh.
All right, Amy, what was your favorite movie of the round?
So, are we saying pre-remaking? or
Yeah, like
as
your
is?
favorite movie to watch of the round.
Executive Decision.
Okay.
Yeah, buddy. It was a really
I
good one.
honestly would have picked the remake Jumper if we chose remakes, but I think movies in general, I thought Executive Decision was my favorite of all the movie.
Fair enough.
I'll take a close second.
Yeah. I picked Cocoon. I think rewatching it for the first time in well over a decade really, and maybe because I'm older now, really made me fall in love with the film again. I think it's, like I said, all of these films are pretty good or good enough. None of them are terrible, none of them are excellent, but Cocoon really kind of reminded me what an excellent like slice of life movie can be, and like not every movie needs to be literally life and death or the world's ending. And I feel like sometimes, especially modern day movies with like multiverses and action films, it's like if the world's not ending, it's not high stakes enough. But actually that's not true. You can have a movie about something small.
I would agree with you if that movie were an hour shorter.
Yeah, it was so long.
You could probably
20
shave
minutes.
some minutes off of that. I do agree.
Yeah, there was just parts that just dragged.
Like the whole thing?
Wow.
Let's jump in then to the least favorite of the round, because Nick, you've listed Cocoon here. So why don't you expand on what you were just saying?
I pretty much just said it. There were parts of that film that just dragged on. Like, I feel like I could have hit the button to skip forward 30 seconds at a time 4 or 5 times and missed nothing. There was nothing contributed. There's 2 wacky like cutscenes in the beginning that I don't think even needed to exist. Like, filter it down a little bit and distill it into a little bit more rich content. And I think it could be a nice, even what'd you call it, slice of life film.
Yeah.
I think it could have done well from seeing a little bit more of it on the cutting room floor.
I just feel like it was aggressively fine. Like it was just so, like, it's how Pat says, it's fine.
Perfectly fine.
Just fine.
Just fine.
Yeah.
All right, Andrea, your least favorite, I think you've kind of chatted about, was Jumper.
My least favorite was Jumper, but
Incorrect.
It just wasn't finished. It was like 3/4 of a movie.
You're 3/4 of a movie.
What does that even mean?
I don't know. I just say things.
Yeah, hence your pick of Jumper, which you had things about. It just the premise is so good. It just, when the movie ended, I was like, wait, that's it?
I'll give you that. That
Wait,
movie,
what?
they tried so hard to set up a sequel and it just wasn't going to happen. I would have rather they committed to a 1 movie like attempt, or like a mini series or something.
Yeah.
But
I think nowadays, if Christopher Nolan or Dennis Villeneuve were to pitch Jumper, the movie studio would be like, yeah, that's fine, make it 3 hours, we don't care. You know what I mean? But like, it was, I think I said this during the cast, it was during that era where like they just wanted to pump out 90-minute movies so they could put butts in seats. I also picked a Jumper as my least favorite of the round, but I also think it's the best film on the list to remake.
Exactly,
because
good point.
Like all of the films I say that I like to remake, the fact that it's not good makes it worse because the potential was there, right? And I feel the same way about also Terminator Salvation, which is my pick, so I couldn't pick it for, best or worst. But I feel like it's the same way about Terminator Salvation, which is just a swing and a miss of a film. And that's what Jumper is as well. Like, they struck out, and there's definitely like a gem in there somewhere. So
yeah, both of them did really good storytelling and world building, but they just fell on their face about halfway through.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Like the setup, and then just guess we're not doing payoff. Yeah, we're not doing payoff this week.
An executive decision had more plot holes than a piece of Swiss cheese.
That's true, but honestly, a film like that, you're allowed to, right? It's on a plane, like you just kind of have to believe that there's a room-sized space at the top of the plane or whatever. They can't hear you drilling below them, or whatever the case may be. Amy, what about you? What was your least favorite?
That was a hard pick between Jumper and Terminator Salvation. I inevitably picked Terminator. Reason because I wanted it to be better than what it was, just because of the nostalgia of Terminator. And I think I said this during the actual podcast of Terminator. It felt like they just remade the movie. They shouldn't have. I don't know. Okay. It had potential.
All right. Okay, so those were our favorite and least favorite films of the round. Now let's move on to what we've been watching.
Might recently. I interject a potential addition subsection?
Yes.
You kind of already alluded to it, but most likely to remake or favorite remake of the round.
Okay, we can do that. I like that.
I especially like it because I know everybody's going to pick Jumper.
Yeah.
Honestly, because I enjoy the franchise Terminator, I probably would pick Terminator. But
I'm going to need you to roll back the tape where you said just a few moments ago that you would pick Jumper.
But
I think Jumper is a film that needs a remake more than Terminator Salvation. Terminator Salvation is less rough around the edges. But being a Terminator fan, like if you're a Terminator fan, and I am, you want the first film that happens after the apocalypse to be awesome. And like the potential there, you know what I mean? It's just so high. So but listen, Jumper is a great pick for a remake for all the reasons we listed. And I have no shame in saying that, like, I'd be happy to see that remade as well.
I feel betrayed.
Me too.
Jumper. I picked
I would
Jumper.
definitely pick Jumper on that one.
Yep.
All right. Listen, if anything, I've picked two. If if you want to put it like that, I'll just cheat and pick both films. Because I really do feel like both films could use a really good remake.
I just want to point out you broke the rules and picked your own film.
Yeah.
That's true. But I didn't set rules. This is a new thing you just came up with on the spot. So
Oh, there we go.
So much backpedaling.
remember my rule about rules, which is really I just make them up and you can change them anytime. So
That is his rule on rules.
that's the main rule. All right, so let's move on to what we are watching at the movie theaters, on the TV.
I failed this season, or this round for the movie theater. Have I seen one movie?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think I've gone out to the movie theater in a month or so.
Well, the rest of us have, and I think we should talk about the film that we've all seen, except for Amy, Wrecked, and that's Oppenheimer.
No.
Yes.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Oppenheimer was great.
Excellent.
I agree. It will win lots of awards.
It will. It's definitely Oscar bait.
Yeah.
I wish I had seen Barbie, though. I did not see that.
I think it's already starting to hit streaming.
Really?
Yeah, I thought I saw
Not
something.
shocked. Yeah.
Like on the Google Home screen for Google TV.
I mean, it was #1 at the box office for like a month.
Yeah, both Barbie and Oppenheimer have smashed the box office, which I think is a really great sign, because a lot of superhero movies and franchise movies have bombed this year. I saw Indiana Jones, The Flash bombed, even like Guardians of the Galaxy didn't do that well. Blue Beetle bombed as well, that other DC film. Marvel doesn't seem to be doing well. Secret Invasion was hated.
We're just I feel burnt out. Like, I know superhero fatigue is the media buzzword, but like I feel like Oppenheimer, while not an original idea, is like, it's a Christopher Nolan film and he does great work. And then the other film, Barbie, like, people want to see, they don't want to, it feels like that it's proof of the fact that people are tired of watching the same regurgitated crap over and over again.
Yes, I do love the outrage culture that comes along with whatever Barbie was. There was going to be some outrage, kind of like from, specifically from the political right. I just love that, like, it just made $1 billion. I haven't seen it. I don't know how good it is or isn't. It would probably make me laugh. Like, I'm not offended by jokes at, the patriarchy's expense or whatever. But, I just love when people get butthurt over a film and then it makes $1 billion anyways,
They get what? Butthurt?
Butthurt.
Is that a saying?
It is a saying.
It is,
Yeah.
yes.
I thought you just made that up.
Just watch Fox News for like 5 minutes. That's the prime example of butthurt.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
I mean,
the news media jumped to the shark.
Okay, I would say edit it out, but let's continue.
Yeah. All right. Well, anyways, I think I'm really glad, and I hope that studios look at films like Oppenheimer, like Barbie, like Everything Everywhere All at Once last year, and think we can just give good filmmakers money and say, do what you want. And it turns out if we leave them alone, they're really good at what they do.
So the movie making industry is pulling a Netflix 10 years ago.
Yes. Yeah. Kevin Spacey signed up. Let's just give him $1 billion.
Now, in retrospect, that was not a great idea.
Yeah. But you know what? Do you remember that? That like first like Netflix original like House of Cards? Like that was huge back then.
Yeah, everyone was watching that.
Yeah.
And then I watched the first season and I was like, that's not bad.
Anyways, outside of Oppenheimer, I went to the theater twice. The first time by myself to see Mission Impossible 7, which was pretty all right, like a 8 out of 10.
Aggressively
fine. It was
It was
fine.
aggressively fine.
No, it was really enjoyable. It really was. It wasn't as good as 5 and 6, which are my two favorite Mission Impossible films. But I think it's part 1 of 2. So in a way, it's like half a film. So I'd like to see. It's like Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. The fact that the movie just ends and then we have to wait to see, you know. But I thought it was really good. If you like action movies, you're gonna love Mission Impossible 7. And I really enjoyed it, and I saw it in IMAX. I had to go see it that week because Oppenheimer kicked it out of IMAX afterwards. So
Oh no.
yeah, which apparently Tom Cruise was very upset about, jumping up and down on couches and such.
Whatever.
If it comes back in IMAX for some reason, I would recommend it. I think the action's great in IMAX, even though it's not specifically filmed for IMAX for the most part. So
okay.
And then the other thing I would see in theaters was a re-release of Porco Rosso, which is a Japanese animated film from I believe, the late 80s. And I first saw this film back in the Netflix DVD days, as we call them on this podcast.
Which, let's play a slow clap off the stage because that just ended.
Yeah, moment of
Officially
silence.
Moment of silence. Yeah, it just officially ended. And I think Netflix actually sent a whole bunch of extra DVDs out to people who
stayed on
that particular service, but
yeah,
they just ended
gave
that.
them away.
Rip.
Yeah. So Porco Rosso is a Miyazaki film. He is a famous, especially in the West, film director from Japan.
Did he do Spirited Away?
Yes.
Okay.
He did probably his most famous film. I think maybe the film that people have heard the most is Howl's Moving Castle, which I really enjoy. But like Castle in the Sky,
That's good.
Kiki's Delivery Service, a bunch like that. So yeah, he did do Spirited Away, which is another kind of big success. So yeah, he's very well known, and a lot of times the local Cinemark that I go to will have like a Miyazaki film festival each fall.
Oh, neat.
And I hadn't
Very
seen
cool.
this since the Netflix DVD days. And I remember it being kind of slow and boring, but I was young at the time. And going back into theaters and watching it again for the first time in probably 20 years. Maybe it's because of my age, but again, it kind of felt like slice of life-y. It was just kind of, there's a lot of, it's hard to describe, but it's a slow moving film with
Detective Pig, right?
It is about a pig flying a World War I era biplane.
Okay.
But it's if you've seen his more like exciting films like Howl's Moving Castle and Spirited Away and things like that, I'd recommend giving this a shot. It's a very unique film. So even if you don't like it, I think it's a film that you can appreciate what it's trying to do, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
I noticed there's another entry on this line here, Pat, and I will judge you for it.
Oh, I just want to be clear. Yeah, so the fourth movie I watched this round.
You're welcome.
This is an Amy pick, and I didn't veto it.
And he liked it.
I didn't hate it. I didn't hate it. It was fine, but aggressively mediocre. And this film is The Meg.
It was
one or
not
two.
The first one. I haven't. Yeah.
Okay.
My gosh.
It's just a silly, stupid movie, and honestly, I would never have just watched this film. But the fact that we wanted to watch a movie together because I think I had been at Gen Con and we hadn't seen each other in a week or so. So we're like, we're going to sit down together. We're going to watch a movie.
Yeah, we needed something where I could fall asleep next to you.
Yeah, and so
movie.
Amy got to pick.
I'm not going to say that.
Whoa.
Radio.
Where are you going?
I was gonna
I'll make you fall asleep next to me if you know what I mean.
No, I was going to say you didn't have to pay money for that.
That's yeah. Listen, it's not a great film, obviously. It's a B movie, but you know what? My cousin and my sister and Amy and I oftentimes will watch like those Sharknado movies when they come
I
out.
was just gonna say
Just-
Sharknado.
And this literally was on it was like the Meg is like Sharknado with like a $50 million budget. That's really what it is. And I'm assuming the Meg 2 is Sharknado, but with $100 million budget.
Oh my goodness.
And it's it's definitely like you can feel it. You can feel that it's a film made by committee, right? They've got to have like someone from China so they can sell it to theaters in China and stuff like that. It's you can definitely tell it's like a film designed by a studio to be sold in as many markets as possible to make as much money as possible.
That
You're like,
will not
"Listen,
offend in any way.
Correct,
Our
yeah.
margins are incredibly slim on this already. Let's do
Yeah.
everything we can.
Yeah, tell PG jokes and have a giant shark settle it in as many countries as possible. So that's us, Nick, Andrea. What films did you guys watch recently?
We watched Oppenheimer, but like
Haven't really
I've
hit
had
the theater.
rehearsal and a show and a broken foot, so I haven't had time to do anything. I watched I think it was last week. I had a Saturday where nothing was going on for once, and I watched Heat and Air Force One.
Both excellent films.
They were both.
They sound
excellent.
like they should be from like a box set. Do they go together?
Yeah.
I think
That
I've
would
mentioned this before that when I
Really?
first moved to America, I had the VHS of Air Force One and Cliffhanger together
Oh, okay.
from Sam's Club.
Yeah.
I don't know why I remember where I bought it from, but there you go.
Can we explain what a box set is to some listeners?
Yeah, I think I suggested Air Force One to you, Andrea.
You
Did
did.
you like it more than Executive Decision? Less?
Oh God, let me think. I liked it more.
Oh.
Okay.
Ooh.
For one thing, the stakes were a lot higher, which meant it was more exciting.
Yeah.
Like Gary Oldman's character did not hesitate to kill everybody. It's like, oh, this nice lady at the beginning dies. This chief of staff dead. It's like he did not care.
Also, Gary Oldman is an angry Russian dude.
True.
Damn.
Yeah.
Gary Oldman isn't anyone.
Yeah, fair, but like
Gary Oldman as this rock. Wow, it's an amazing movie.
Yeah.
I felt like it was a great analog for what's going on right now in Russia.
Mm.
Interesting.
And I was like, oh, this is aged fairly well. I mean, there's a female vice president, there's problems in Russia. We're trying to get this government to release a prisoner. Like it was good. I liked it a lot.
Listen, I don't want to get political, but I really wish Glenn Close was our VP right now. She's a badass in the film. Come on.
She is a badass.
She kind of is, yeah.
A couple things about Air Force One before we leave this subject. First, the line "Get off my plane," absolute classic Harrison
Get
Ford
off
line.
my plane. Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Just perfect. Like
it's like I didn't kill my wife.
Right. It's right up there with like any of Schwarzenegger Arnold Schwarzenegger's like one-liners, you know what I mean? Like it's just
to the chopper.
And secondly, how about that CGI at the end of that film when the Air Force One crashes into the ocean? Like
so
it just
bad.
in one piece it just bounces up. It's so incredibly bad.
Yeah.
It's like they ran out of budget and they're like, just throw a plastic airplane into a bathtub and that's
at least
good enough.
Executive Decision had practical effects.
Well,
Yeah.
Some
Mostly.
of it. Some of it.
But honestly, even when the CGI was janky in Executive Decision, it's way better than that last shot of Air Force One with the guy in the door. He stays there as the plane crashes.
Yeah, it was painful.
Yeah, because the plane smacking into I know it's water, but literally anything isn't going to send him flying like someone without a seatbelt through a windshield.
I also I was flipping through Netflix and I was like, oh yeah, these are some films that Pat has said I should watch. And I'd heard about Heat, because it's like a classic. And I was like, oh my God, everybody is in this movie.
Yeah.
Everybody.
The entire A-list.
Yeah.
all three of your films you've mentioned watching, Oppenheimer, Heat, and Air Force One, are like a smorgasbord of just like random Hollywood talent.
Yeah. Who was in this? Al Pacino,
Val-
De
Val
Niro,
Kilmer.
Kilmer, John Voight, Tom Sizemore, Ashley Judd, Wes Studi, Dennis Haybert, who is the Allstate guy.
Oh
William
yeah.
Fichtner, Natalie Portman, Hank Azaria, Danny Trejo, Tone Loc, like Jeremy Piven. Everybody was in
Yeah.
this movie.
Yeah.
It was so good too. Like it was just like
it's so good. That one bank heist where like all of a sudden like they know they're about to get got and they just, I can't remember this Val Kilmer or Tom Sizemore just like opens up with their machine gun and starts gunning people down.
I don't remember. Probably
So
I feel like
good.
that would be Tom Sizemore's character.
Yeah, that makes sense. R.I.P. Tom Sizemore, by the way.
Yes.
Died.
Could they not have picked, like, don't get me wrong, but like Robert De Niro and
Pacino.
Al Pacino in this film were dressed, facial features and otherwise looked very similar. Like,
well, they gave De Niro a goatee so you can tell them apart.
Okay.
But the thing is like it makes sense that you can't tell the difference, because in that cafe scene, which I fucking love, that scene is so good. When they're in the cafe, they're like, yeah, they're talking about like their jobs, and it's like basically they both like they're
like, I get
their
that.
lives are their work, like they're the same side, they're different sides of the same coin.
I get that, I do, and I can see like the angle that they were pushing for there, but so I was rewatching this essentially.
You were also playing video games at the same
while
time.
playing video games on the other end of the room. So I kept like peeking up and looking at it. I'm like, wait, is that the bad guy or the good guy? Because like they looked too similar. And I kept being like, okay, which one is this? And lady's like, and describes it for me.
After
But
a little while, it's easy to pick it up, but I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I was just so confused because like the good guy does bad guy things and the bad guy does good guy things too.
Yeah.
So like it just kept throwing me for a loop.
And that's kind of the point, right? Is like they're polar opposites, but they act the same, right? And a lot of times this is what a lot of crime movies do, is like the cops and the criminals have like a similar quote unquote code of honor that they use in different ways, one for nefarious purposes and one to try and take them down. But yeah, I think that scene is the only scene that they share together, right? That dinner scene or whatever, which is interesting because like that was the big thing about the film, is they're both in it and they've both had insane like gangster films come out, in the decades previous.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden now they're in the same film. It was a big deal. Also, since the podcast, the name of the podcast is called The Original Remake, I just found this out. This is a remake of an earlier film from the same director called L.A. Takedown.
Oh, fuck.
Oh.
Apparently so.
Oh.
Apparently L.A. Takedown was a massive bomb and he wanted another shot at it. So.
It was.
Oh, it was a pilot.
Yeah, it was supposed to be a television series and then aired as a standalone TV film. Ooh, when it's bad.
Gross.
Yeah.
Well.
And then a bunch of no-name nobodies.
Clearly the remake did some work.
Yeah.
There we go.
Clearly they just called us up and we're like, guys, we know with your dozens of listeners and clearly, 20 plus films of review here, we need you to remake this film for us. True story.
True. That's exactly what happened. Back in 1995 when we were doing our podcast.
Yep, exactly.
Let's move on to TV then. I've really only been watching one show outside of just rewatching Ted Lasso over and over again, of course. I know you laugh, but I'm kind of not joking. I just love that show. I started watching just yesterday. The 4th episode of Ahsoka came out. This is the new Star Wars TV show. It's fine.
There we go.
I know I'm saying this a lot.
We need to get better words.
Listen, first of all,
if we ever do merch, one of the shirts is just going to be Pat with his face like down and his eyes like looking up at you with It's fine
It's
underneath.
fine.
It's fine.
It's so the first thing I have to say about the show is Star Wars needs to be making content that general audiences will enjoy. And Amy, I feel like I've had to like pause the show and tell you what's going on because this is a sequel to animated shows that not a lot of people have seen, Rebels and Clone Wars, which are fine. Even I, as a diehard Star Wars fan, didn't like Rebels enough to finish it. It's like a very kids show. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but Ahsoka is like made for all audiences. And then the villain Thrawn is a classic villain from the EU that they've relaunched. But in order to get his entire backstory, you also need to watch Rebels, and there are tie-in novels as well that are about Thrawn that they've released over the past couple years. And then the timeline of the show is like very strange. Like you saw Ahsoka in The Mandalorian, but actually this show takes place after that. Or sorry, you saw her in the Book of Boba Fett, but that this show Ahsoka takes place before that, but it takes place after her appearance in Mandalorian. The timeline is very strange, and I just feel like Star Wars needs to make a show that if you know like the mainline Star Wars movies, you can go in and just watch it and have fun. And
Yeah,
You don't need
Ahsoka
to do
is
your homework.
very much you don't need to do your homework, and this is very much not that show. And I worry because they're supposed to be doing a bunch of shows around this leading up to like a Thrawn movie. And I wonder how many people who aren't already diehard Star Wars fans are gonna like stick with this journey, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the
They
action
need to
is
make
cool.
it a little bit more approachable. Because
Right.
if you can't get more of a new audience in there to keep the steam going, your
Right.
diehards are going to only take you so far, but you're also pissing them off with like the newest
Yeah.
trilogy was just
Yeah.
detritus.
This is
So, like,
why I think Star Wars needs to do again I read all the EU Star Wars novels back in the day. There was a series of novels called X-Wing, and all it was all a squadron of X-Wing pilots that went rogue and had to fight like this kind of dictator warlord that had some Star Destroyers out in another system. And that would be so easy to do, and you could make it so that you don't need any context for Star Wars or any of the backlog, any of the kind of like the story thus far. You could just make a cool spaceship fighting show, and I think people would really love that. I just worry that they're kind of shooting the moon on this one, and that they're going to leave people behind that otherwise would enjoy it.
Yeah, I was told that you have to like, if you haven't seen those other series, jump on YouTube and like watch a synopsis first.
Yes,
because otherwise you're not going to understand Ahsoka. And I'm like, that's work.
Yeah, and there's a lot of like character subtext that like even if you've watched the YouTube like this is what happened, there's a lot of subtext which you kind of don't understand. So as far as the actual show, it's decent so far. There are some things where I'm like, this doesn't make sense. This is kind of dumb. But there's a lot of really cool and interesting stuff. Some of the dark side Jedi are fantastic. There's one of the main points of the plot is like going to another galaxy, which is something, again, if you're a fan of the old Star Wars books, this happened. The Star Wars universe got invaded by another universe or by another galaxy, and it was great. I know some people didn't like it, but I really enjoyed it. And yeah, very mixed so far, but the parts I do like. I think the action is really well done. I think the acting is good enough. It's a little bit stoic, but there's enough kind of like jokes in there, and that there's definitely some callbacks. I don't want to spoil it, but a certain Dark Lord of the Sith shows up in ghost form in one of the newer episodes. So there's enough callbacks to keep things interesting, but we'll have to see, the next randomizer. I'll kind of do an update on, once the show is finished, what I thought. But about 4 episodes in, very mixed, but a lot of stuff that I do enjoy about it. So
okay.
If we remember to talk about it next randomizer.
Yeah, make the notes now.
Yeah. That's enough Star Wars ranting from me. Amy, do you have anything you watched?
Well, I have been watching a TV show, and I'm sure no one will find this interesting, but I remember back in 1996, there was a TV show that came out called The Pretenders. Does anybody remember this?
It sounds familiar.
So I started rewatching it on Amazon, and I think our listeners, viewers know that I like bad stuff, but it's just so good. I know it's a 90s sitcom. I know it's basically about a genius kid. They call him, or this type of intelligence, pretenders, where they can form into different jobs in society. They can go into like a firehouse and become a firefighter. I do
remember this now.
And so they scoop up this kid when he was younger. He escapes from this, secret organization to find his mother, and so they're chasing him, and he's in different situations. He's a doctor one episode. It's just really good bad TV, and I love it.
I like that you said I like bad things, and this show is great. And I was like, "That's you didn't need to say anything else. That's we got
it." Those TV shows that like CIA Miami, or what
CSI,
and
like
all of
each
its
show.
iterations.
Okay, like
each show is its own little individual one.
Okay, each episode is like a
without
it's episodic. That's what it's episodic. Yeah. Okay.
Unfortunately,
that's we just finished watching Strange New Worlds season 2.
It's a Star Trek show, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it is for the most part episodic, which is nice because you can just turn it on and be like.
There are some overarching like stories that translate from episode to episode, but it's nothing like, if you miss an episode, you're not going to miss much.
Oh my god, I got Nick a poster from the episode Subspace Rhapsody, which is the musical episode.
It's fantastic.
A lot of Star Trek stans, like my brother, will fucking hate it.
No. Those people that do not embrace the subculture of what it means to be a Star Trek fan and are just hell-bent on slurping up next-gen DS9 and nothing else, those diehards that are unwilling, unmovable, and don't
forget Voyager,
follow the philosophy of what is Star Trek, where does it come from, and what does it stand for, those asshats that really shouldn't call themselves Trekkies because they missed the point, those people are pissed off by episodes like this.
This has been your Soapbox Minute with Nick Daskowitz.
I feel like Nick and I have gone on huge rants about Star Wars and Star Trek.
Yeah,
I agree. I think Star Trek is great. I did love Deep Space Nine. It is my favorite Star Trek.
Oh
my God, why?
But listen,
incorrect.
I haven't watched almost any of the new stuff. Not Discovery, not Strange New Worlds. What's the other one they're doing? I can't remember. The prequel.
The prequel.
Isn't there one with like Spock in it or something?
Discovery and Strange New Worlds are the prequels.
Oh, okay.
They both have Spock in them.
There's Prodigy. That's the animated series made for Nickelodeon, but it does have some cool story points.
That happens after Voyager, though.
Correct. Gotcha. That happens after Voyager.
Yeah, I haven't seen any of those.
Then there's Lower Decks, which happens concurrently, or Lower Decks happens shortly after TNG, because Riker is captain of the Titan at that point.
Yes.
But it's in like the same universe.
It is.
I mean, it is the same universe, but almost the same time frame.
It's same universe, and if anybody hasn't watched Strange New Worlds, I don't want to ruin it. So, spoiler warning. In Strange New Worlds, there's a crossover episode between Lower Decks and Strange New Worlds, and it is amazing. It is everything.
It is a crossover between an animated show and a non-animated show, and it's so good.
It is so good.
It is actually directed by
Jonathan Frakes. Jonathan Frakes.
Yes, who played Will Riker in TNG and also directed First Contact.
Yeah.
And I think
he's directed a lot, actually.
He's directed a lot. And
it's so good.
It's really good.
There are 2 standout episodes in this 10-episode run, and it's their first season. So they've got to do some story. They've got to do some character build, some introduction.
I don't know if I'd say
2 seasons.
I was gonna say wouldn't say that those episodes would be standout ones, because the one where they go back in time is a standout one for me.
No. So just mind blowing and not rehashed, remade versions of previous Star Trek shows, because there are some similar plot lines that they do in a couple episodes. But a completely new take on something is the crossover episode. And the musical episode is the only musical episode across the entire Star Trek franchise.
Yeah.
And the way they executed it was just flawless,
Yeah.
in my opinion. It was excellent.
There were some misses, but mostly they were hits. And
Yeah.
I would say that the closest as far as a crossover episode would go would probably be that episode of Deep Space Nine where they went back to the Trouble with Tribbles episode.
Oh, okay.
Where but that wasn't animated and live action. That was just clever CGI.
That was a little bit of retcon too. Like they played with the storyline a little bit.
They did.
And I don't know, like I think that was a creative episode, especially at the time, like taking DS9 and shoving the DS9 characters in an original series set. I think it was a novel idea, but I don't think it even holds a candle to the crossover.
Oh no, it does not.
In Strange New Worlds.
It does not.
Let me ask you this, and I've asked you this before, and I've always limited on time, so I always say I'm going to dive into like a Stargate show or a Star Trek show, and then I never do. But Strange New World, you mentioned it's episodic. So for me, and also I'm asking this on behalf of the listeners, if they're not huge Star Trek fans and they're like, you know what, I want to try a Star Trek, which I don't have to dive into, is there value in just watching a season of Strange New Worlds and getting enough of it?
Absolutely. No, absolutely. Because, well, there are some overarching things, like the Doctor has his, we'll say, science experiment, for those who haven't seen it,
Okay.
with his daughter. Like that goes and carries from episode to episode. And if you see that portion of one of the episodes, you might be like, wonder what's going on there. And it might make you want to dig into the other parts of that season that touch on that. But like, that's probably the depth at which you'll be sucked into a multi-episode run. I mean, like there's not a lot of that. It harkens back towards original series in like crazy costumes, non-humanoid aliens, and like embracing that side of the story too. I think it's a good spot to jump in.
I'll say I'll give it a shot, and then I probably just will never watch it. But I've seen enough Star Trek where like I feel like I would get the references or the jokes or whatever.
Oh sure,
enough of them to make it entertaining.
Strange New Worlds is technically a spinoff of Discovery. With that said, you do not need to watch Discovery to understand what's going on in Strange New Worlds, because I did not finish season 1 of Discovery, and I don't know if I ever will. It's just kind of lost interest.
Yeah, same. They did the whole jump to the future thing, and I was like, it's getting weird.
They didn't jump to the future. They went to the mirror universe.
No, they also went to the future.
Oh, good Lord.
Oh, you stopped watching?
Plot twist.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't care if this is a spoiler for anyone or not. You cannot.
I definitely won't edit this part out.
Probably for the best.
Moving on.
Moving on, before we go on to listener questions, we are a little short on time, but I want to talk about Foundation because it looks like, Nick, you've listed here that you've started it. I started season 1 and didn't finish, and I liked the books back in the day and was disappointed with some aspects of the show. What are your thoughts so far on Foundation?
So I'm trying to muscle through it. I'm not liking at this point some of the creative decisions that they've made in the series, as opposed to the books. Now, I've just read the Foundation series of books less than a year ago, so they're still relatively fresh in my mind. So I wanted to give the TV show a shot. It has 2 seasons, so that if I do fall into it, it's not, oh crap, I've watched 2 episodes and now I got to wait a week for the next one, or anything like that. I can actually just dig in, binge this season, and kind of digest the story.
Yeah.
But I also, so while I don't particularly enjoy what they've done with the story as compared to the book, I understand why they did it in an adaptation for TV.
I think I wish they took the risk and made it a non-violent series.
Yeah.
They've made a lot of characters action oriented, and part of the point of Foundation, a big part of it is that physical violence is a automatic loss in kind of like an argument for control of the universe, essentially. Like if you have to use violence, you've already lost the argument, right?
Yeah,
That's a big part of the
violence is the
Foundation.
last refuge of the incompetent.
Yeah.
And they
And
say that a dozen or so times,
Yeah.
even in the series. And I'm
yeah,
just
and
like,
then in like the second episode, she's like gearing up with her assault rifle. I'm like, what?
yeah,
One thing I do like about the show is the three emperors, the Dusk, Dawn, and whatever it was,
day.
Day. I really like that concept. So, and not everything they've done is bad. And I do think that Foundation, you do need to adapt it for television. You can't just print what's on the page, because in the book there's like 1,000-year time jumps, right? Like,
Yeah.
and what's his name? Harry Seldon is like a hologram, like who's dead for most of it, right?
Yeah.
So,
They're
like
hitting all the high points.
Yeah.
But they're all I feel like they're setting up, so those familiar with the book, the mule ends up being book 3's like big bad, and towards the end of book 2 as well, but ends up being the big bad that the Foundation has to go up against. And I feel like they're setting up in the in the series here, one of the main characters to become the mule, which is a connection that doesn't need to exist.
Yeah.
It's a weird storyline that they're trying to put together, and
It's
that's one of the things I'm not really feeling.
Yeah, it's a shame because Apple and Amazon have been really, really great with science fiction adaptations. Let's leave
Yeah.
fantasy alone when it comes to Amazon, Wheel of Time, Lord of the Rings. But their science fiction adaptations have been great. And then just over the past year, we've gotten Foundation, 2 seasons of it, which I didn't finish because I was disappointed in. And then we also got
Silo.
We got Silo,
Yeah.
which is good, but Amazon
Silo's
put
great.
out The Peripheral, which was great. We loved that show, Amy.
Yeah,
They've canceled
absolutely.
season 2 of it.
What?
Yep.
Ah,
Why?
Severance, which we enjoyed on Apple TV Plus, season 2 is currently on hold, and from what I understand is in danger of being canceled. So there's a lot of great science fiction TV out there that's on the edge, and like The Expanse is finished. The only one right now that's like got a chance of survival is Silo, and that's because basically they've got the books to go off, so they know where they're going.
Yeah.
So I'm a little worried about the future of science fiction TV, which I feel like has been such a positive space for me over the past like decade or so. It's just been getting better and better and better. And I worry, that like moving forward, a lot of great original science fiction projects will be shelved, and we'll keep getting like kind of bastardization of kind of books when it comes to adaptations like Foundation and things like that. So I don't know. We'll see, but it's
It's going to be interesting
disappointing.
with the writer's strike still going as well.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, agreed. All right, let's quickly then move on to listener questions. We have a couple here. First one is, what's a movie that we'll never talk about on this podcast because it already has a good remake?
That was super hard to think of one.
I think we all wrote the same ones, basically.
Well, I mean, Nick wrote a freaking list.
Nick
like
wrote a
3.
list, but you should pick one of them.
Oh,
And
that's
I
so
actually-
hard.
And then
Well-
I actually put a link to the list from Wikipedia that I found.
So we can list honorable mentions, but don't really talk about them. For example, I'll go first. My honorable mentions are to the MonsterVerse films like Godzilla and King Kong. The most recent set of them are fantastic. And then the Planet of the Apes remakes, not the
Oh,
Tim Burton one, but the newer ones were fantastic.
Matt Damon?
Matt
No,
Damon.
not Matt Damon.
Wait, who was in it?
James Franco was in the first one.
Oh, Matt Damon. I swear he was in one of those.
Damon.
Anyways. continue.
Anyways, my actual pick is Ocean's 11. Because Ocean's 11 is a fantastic film, and if you've ever actually gone back and seen the Frank Sinatra Rat Pack version of Ocean's 11, it's pretty bad. It's not worth watching.
This is way superior.
Yeah,
Wow,
Ocean's
okay.
11 is fantastic. It's funny, it's witty. Even the minor characters are like caricatures in a good way. I love the twist ending. I just love everything about that movie, and it's a movie that, like, if I saw that movie like a month ago and it was on TV, I feel like I just accidentally end up watching it again.
Mhm.
So that's my pick, Ocean's 11. Who's up next?
I picked The Mummy, the Brendan Fraser version, not the Tom Cruise version, because the Tom Cruise version doesn't follow anywhere near the same story that the Brendan Fraser version does. The original one that like occurred with the original one with Boris Karloff, like at least some of the characters are the same.
Yeah.
In the remake. And it's just a shitload of fun. Like,
I didn't realize The Mummy was a remake.
it is, yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
Did you actually see the original though?
if it's
I
a-
knew it was a
did
remake.
not.
Yeah. If it's a classic monster film, it's almost certainly a
Yeah.
remake of something.
Probably.
Yeah.
I agree. I think the Brendan Fraser ones are fantastic. I like
They
the
really
second
are.
one a lot.
Oh my god, the second one is really good.
Yeah, I think the original, like the first Brendan Fraser Mummy, is just great.
It was during the middle of the Brendan Fraser golden age of films.
True. We got what's the one Bedeviled or Bedazzled, the one with Elizabeth Hurley as the devil.
I
Did you
do
say
know that one.
Bedazzled?
I think it's Bedeviled.
Oh,
That was
shit.
peak Brendan Fraser, and I will not have anyone argue with me.
No.
All right.
No, Encino Man.
Oh
Thank
yeah, that's right.
you.
Encino Man.
That was a great movie.
All right, Amy.
Oh, no one else agrees. That was a good movie.
What's your remake?
I picked a lot of the same. I did put in Ocean's 11 because I agree. I kind of tried to pick movies. I've seen the original and the newer one, and I liked both equally or the new one better. One that I don't see on our list, A Star is Born. I don't know if you guys seen the new one.
I did not.
I have not.
It's a pretty good story.
Is that the one with Lady Gaga?
Correct. The original is actually pretty good. It's a really good, but this remake is even better. And also Bram Stoker's Dracula. I remember reading that book when I was younger. I loved it. I've seen the original.
Is that the Are you referring to the Francis Ford Coppola one with Keanu Reeves?
Yeah.
So I got to be honest.
No, don't.
No, outside.
I don't want you to be honest.
Okay, I'm gonna lie to you, Wink. Outside of Keanu Reeves' horrible performance, that movie's awesome.
I know.
Like, it's fantastic, but because Keanu Reeves puts in such a poor performance, it literally ruins the movie.
Don't say that.
Have you ever seen it, Nick?
Of course he hasn't.
So
but
just type
I have
in
seen an amazing Dracula film.
Dracula 2000.
No, the one.
Ooh, yeah.
Renfield.
Oh yeah, that was
Nick Cage.
Nick, if don't go watch the movie, but type into YouTube Keanu Reeves Dracula performance and just watch him trying to do a British accent.
That's not fair though.
No, it is fair. He tries to do a British accent. It's like, "Hello, good sir. I'm from England."
Anyways, I like that remake because I like the original, and the new one is a good spin on it. And also no one's brought up Dune. I've seen the original Dune.
Yeah.
The remake, it is really good.
Yeah, the remake's obviously better, and it has some advantages to it considering they split it into two parts. And I think they're going to be doing a third part, so I'm very happy about that. But Nick, you
Dune
wrote
was
down Dune
actually
as
on
well.
my list. Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it? Whoops.
Yeah.
No,
We
it's fine.
agree.
Yes.
Nick, what else did you have on your list?
So my primary pick is probably going to be Casino Royale. The Daniel Craig version, obviously being the superior one. It was a nice refresh on the Bond franchise and a nice change of pace while still being, honest to the original. But clearly a superior movie.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Agreed.
Honorable mention would be Italian Job.
The Marky Mark one.
Yeah,
I'll
not
give it to you.
necessarily that part.
I'll give it to you.
It was a fun movie.
Yeah, it's a pretty good movie. It's got Mos Def in it. I remember him. I love in it. I think I agree on Casino Royale. Do you remember when Daniel Craig was announced as Bond? Everyone hated it and thought it would be dumb, and like it blew me away when it came out. Same with Robert Pattinson as Batman. I knew he would be a good Batman, and people were naysaying.
I still am not sold on sparkly Batman, but Daniel Craig as Bond, like I didn't honestly care about that portion of it. The part that really kind of got me was there was no Q, there was no gadgets.
Yeah.
There was none of the cliche Bond movie things in Casino Royale. It was all very like real and believable. And I thought that was going to be a big detractor from the movie, and it ended up being probably the most attractive part of it.
I will say Casino Royale, I remember seeing that in theaters, and that chase scene in the beginning was incredible. And it was at the height of parkour, and the whole scene was parkour. They really took advantage of that.
They did.
But that holds up. That holds up today. And like so many Bond films before that have like corny chases, which I don't mind at all. Right, like
GoldenEye and a tank busting through from a
right, or the opening of The World Is Not Enough has like him stealing a boat from Q and driving it down the river to chase someone in another speedboat. And there's like it's dumb, but it's fun. But like they took the stupid away from it.
Yeah,
and it just made it an amazing action film, right?
Yeah, Casino Royale was so good.
Yeah. All right, let's
Quantum
move
of
on.
Solace though was truly awful.
Huh?
Quantum of Solace.
Yeah.
I thought it was fine. I thought it was fine.
It was aggressively not fine.
It was aggressively fine. I could go on and defend it, but I won't in the interest of time. Let's go on to the last question, which is favorite movie that you only need to see once.
Is this also a listener question?
No, I think I made this one up because no one put in a listener question for the second one.
Aww.
Hey, listener, email us your listener questions at remake.cast@gmail.com.
We'll give you a shout out.
We'll give you a shout out. I can't remember who sent in the remake one. I've deleted it, I
think. We
wasn't it
Pat, we literally just said we'd give him a shout out.
I think it was Nate. Shout out, Nate. Even if it wasn't you, you get the credit for sending in other questions also. So yeah, favorite movie that you only need to see once. And I honestly had kind of like a movie in mind when I picked this. So I'll just go first. The film's called Locke with an E. So that's Locke. And the entire movie, and I kid you not, the entire movie is Tom Hardy driving a car, calling people he knows.
Huh.
And it
actually is pretty good.
It's really good. And basically from his conversations with the people on the other line, you get this whole thing about how like you kind of learn over the movie how his life is kind of like falling apart and why he made the decision he made and why he's driving his car. Just an incredible movie that, despite the fact that you quote unquote only need to see it once, I have seen it 3 times. But you really do only need to see it once. But I don't know. I just watched it like 3 different times for no reason.
Oh my God. It got 33 award nominations and won 7.
It's really good.
It shouldn't be good, but it is.
Yeah.
And the fact it's Tom Hardy's performance.
Tom Holland is in this movie. What was he, a toddler?
I think everyone else who isn't Tom Hardy who's in this film just plays a voice.
Oh,
so okay. Yeah.
It's a 2013 film.
The entire film is just one camera pointed at Tom Hardy. That's it. I'm serious. That's the whole movie.
And this isn't like distributed by A24. That
Yeah.
makes sense. They do a lot of
Yes.
weird, cool stuff.
They do a lot of cool movies.
Yeah.
Highly recommend, even if you end up not liking it, to give this film a chance because it's an experiment and it's really well executed. And I just love it. You may not love it, but I think you should give it a shot.
We'll have to add
Great
it to the
pick.
list.
Great pick.
On the list.
I did not go that route.
All right, Amy, you're up. Go.
A24, that studio also did Ex Machina and
Yep.
Swiss Army Man
Mhm.
and Everything Everywhere All at Once, as well as Lady Bird,
I think they did The Green Knight too.
Uncut Gems. Wow, they did a lot of.
I wanted The Green Knight to be better than what it was.
A24, their films are truly incredible. Like they always make unique films.
And from what I
would
understand, they're the only production company that's actually like acquiescing to the demands of the actors. So I heard somewhere that like that the actors are on strike. They can't work with any production companies except for A24 because they're actually giving the demands that
they've
the actors are looking
that
for.
And Neon and some of the other small ones have agreed to like the demands. But like, yeah, just go and look down a list of the A24 films.
I lied. Their wiki article says that they continue to film and do promotional activities since they do not have ties to SAG-AFTRA or the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers.
Okay.
Gotcha. Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay. All right, Amy, what was your pick?
Oh gosh. So I may have looked at this question in a different view. So the question is, one of your favorite movies that you only need to see once. I guess all my picks ended up being my movies that I could physically only watch once. Because as I'm going down my list, I realize a lot of these are such either good, director, good storyline, good actors, but it made me uncomfortable.
That's fine.
Okay.
So, one movie like American History X. I thought that was a great movie, but just because of the storyline, I don't think I'll ever need to watch it again. But it was a great movie.
Yeah.
Another one, I think we brought this up before, Requiem for a Dream.
Yep, I agree with that too.
And you guys, I remember stating never have seen it. It makes you physically uncomfortable watching it.
Really?
If you have any type of feeling in your body.
Watch it either.
More than any other movie, that film made sure I did not do hardcore drugs. I don't think I would have anyways, but honest to God, if you show that film to a 16-year-old, they'll never get addicted to heroin. Ever.
But it was just visually very satisfying.
Yes.
It sounds weird saying, but it was directed well, and
Darren
Aronofsky, right?
Aronofsky, yeah.
He does a lot of weird stuff, but also good stuff.
Yeah, and a movie that I absolutely loved when it came out, but it broke my heart. Do you guys remember that movie Precious? Did you guys ever see that movie?
It's based off a book called Push, but
Yes.
I didn't see the movie.
That was a very hard movie to watch, but it was a very well told story.
Yeah, I think you answered the question correctly. It can be movies that are hard to watch, so you don't want to watch them again. Funny Games is another film that
was on my list too, but honestly, I didn't watch that.
I love that film because it's so brutal, and it's so realistically brutal too. That like it's just incredible.
Movies that make me uncomfortable, but also make me feel things, I respect.
The last scene of that film is incredible. All right, let's move on. Nick, what was your pick?
I know I wrote something, but I'm going to change my mind on what I wrote because something just popped into my head based on what Amy said.
You know what, Nick, on hold. Andrea, go.
Go.
So I originally put down any Marvel movie because I have no need to see Endgame or Infinity War again because I cried throughout the entire length of those films. But one movie that I think was amazing, but I don't think I can ever watch again is Black Klansman.
Oh yeah, we watched that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a very good movie.
yeah, it like
Gives you feels.
yes, and like I think it's some like I've thought about it recently, and it's like I do want to watch it again because it was really good, but it just there's so much shit that has happened that could apply in that film. And the ending, like I remember the feeling that I had at the end, where like the very end, the two main characters are like watching a cross burning, and the footage, like the movie shifts from like the next scene after that. Like I thought it was like another scene in the movie. It wasn't. It was actual footage from something that actually happened, like Charlottesville. Is that and and like footage from other sorts of
like documentary footage.
Yeah, like documentary footage. And like the second I was like, oh God, I thought that was part of the film, and it wasn't. Like I'm getting chills just thinking about it.
I think it was like it was
like,
tying the historical context to like what was happening
and
modern
like
times, right?
Yes, and like I just started to cry because I was just like, oh my God. And
is that a
like,
Spike Lee film?
It is. No, Spike Jones. Help me out here, someone. But it was a really good film. I can't say enough good things about it, but I just think I would have a hard time. Spike Lee, sorry.
Yep.
I think I would have a hard time watching it again. Especially toward the end. But the thing is that I think that's the kind of movie that does have to be watched again.
Oh yeah, I remember Adam Driver being great in this film too.
He is great in that movie.
Yeah,
he's so good.
Yeah, and I think this is the first film I saw Denzel Washington's son. What's his name?
John David Washington.
John David Washington, yeah.
Who's amazing. Like he was in Tenet and some other stuff, and I've seen him in other things, and he's real good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just don't know why that just popped into my head, but it's just like, that was a hard movie to watch.
That's a good pick. I consider the Marvel movies like popcorn flicks, so I'd put them on in the background anytime. But I think Black Klansman is a good pick. Nick, what's your pick?
Yeah. So back when these were coming out and these were in theaters, any of the good asterisk M. Night Shyamalan movies.
Shamalamala.
Like Sixth Sense.
Yep.
When I first watched that, I was like, oh damn. And like you don't need to watch it again.
Absolutely not, I agree.
Yeah.
But watching it again, you get a slightly different perspective on it.
Plot twist, they're all dead.
Wow. The Village.
So I saw
you literally can't watch again.
True. Yeah.
Except if you're watching it to listen to the soundtrack, in which case
I think The Village is a very underrated film.
I like The Village.
I do too.
Yeah, me too.
I just really can't.
In the theater.
Like I love the idea of it, but like, there's no point in watching it again.
I remember seeing Signs while we were on vacation in Washington, D.C., which sounds like a stupid thing to do on a vacation, but my dad really loved going to movies, so he brought us to see Signs while on our vacation. And I was perfectly happy to go see Signs.
Yeah, we watched a movie on our honeymoon.
We so it's kind of a guilty pleasure of mine is anytime we go somewhere, I like to try and catch a movie and go to a movie theater because there's crazy cool movie theaters everywhere else in the world.
I tried to get.
We went to a really cool movie theater in Maryland.
Yeah, we did.
In Baltimore.
But on our honeymoon, we went and saw a James Bond movie.
We did.
Like the first day.
Yep.
What was it? It was like
we saw it at Universal City Walk.
Yeah.
That crazy giant
I think
theater.
it was actually Skyfall.
I think it was Skyfall.
Yeah.
Yeah. I tried to talk Amy into going to a theater in the Netherlands, but no dice.
Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, agree. Good pick, Nick.
Yeah.
Most Shyamalan, Unbreakable, same thing. Once you know the twist.
Happening.
Yep.
I mean, don't forget.
Okay, well let's not go.
No.
You know what?
No.
That is a movie you only need to watch once. To be fair.
No. That is a movie you only need to watch 0 times. You
True.
need
True.
nothing.
But how do you know
movie.
what's happening?
True.
Because
I mean,
of the memes. The
At
memes.
least Moonfall
memes
had a
are
moon
enough.
falling in it. I mean, geez. At
Well,
least
the
something
happening
was.
had no, nothing
Yeah,
happened.
at least
in there. Okay.
Moonfall had something literally happening in it. All right, everyone, that's the episode. As we stated, we are out of audience questions. So if you'd like to have your question featured on an upcoming episode, please do email us at remake.cast@gmail.com. We will be back in 2 weeks with the start of round 6. See you then.